What's up, everybody? Thralls Metal here. I'm Necrotic Nick.
I'm Jammin John.
And we have an album review for you, and one that I have definitely been anticipating, and feels like it has been quite a while since this band put out an album.
It has been.
So we are going to go over the latest offering from Gatecreeper, Dark Superstition. This also comes out on the 17th of May on Nuclear Blast Records. In fact, their first album with Nuclear Blast Records. They've been with Relapse Records for a while and kind of shifted over to the arguably bigger leagues. This band formed in Arizona in 2013. This is their third full-length album. I have enjoyed everything this band has released so far. I was a huge fan of their debut, Sonoran Deprivation, as just a heavy, mean-spirited, HM2 driven banger. Their second album, Deserted, was definitely heavy as hell, but also introduced some more melodic elements. And then their Unexpected Reality EP was just an interesting little sandwich of grindcore and death doom. And honestly, one of my favorite EPs that came out in 2020. And yeah, that was the last release they put out 4 years ago, so it has been a little while. And when the singles started coming out for this, I got pretty damn excited. Not only because, I mean, they still sound like Gatecreeper, they are still HM2 driven death metal with just a little bit of hardcore in there, but also the songs were wildly different. And that definitely got my interest piqued because, again, this band has kind of done a different album every time. So, I don't know. I was really curious about this one.
I got into this band, I think it was probably like 2016, 2017 when we saw them with Nails up in Detroit. And, I mean, you know, my memories from that show, just the green light.
Yep.
Man, every time I've seen Gatecreeper, it's been in a dark-hued green light and fog. But yeah, they were heavy as shit then, and then we saw them again the following year with Dying Fetus and Incantation, and that was pretty solid. It would be probably Sonoran Deprivation that I first saw them tour on, and then of course we reviewed Deserted back when we first started this channel, so yeah, I've been a fan of this band, and they've progressed pretty much every time in their sound.
Now, this one is their first one with new guitarist Israel Garza. He actually comes from the band Judiciary, which is flat out awesome too. And for a while, Nate Garrett was actually in this band from Spirit Adrift, and he was a hell of a fit there too. And I mean, honestly, I kind of just like him in Spirit Adrift now because that band has just become absolutely incredible.
I do too. Spirit Adrift rules.
Yeah.
And I will follow whatever they do.
So yeah, this album, I'm gonna go ahead and say, like, this is easily their most melodic offering.
100%.
But it's still Gatecreeper. Like, it is still HM2 death metal. It's still groove laden. It still chugs along. Chase still sounds like a giant-sized beast, but, you know, he's Chase. He's, you know, probably got, like, the best mustache in death metal right now.
Oh, I'd give him that 100%.
It's pure Tom Selleck glory that just lives on his upper lip. It's amazing.
But yeah, his vocal dynamic, especially in this record too, I mean, I know he's a great vocalist, but I mean, he really belts it out here. There's a lot of screams and snarls. He goes from sounding like John Tardy to like Mikkel Ockerfeldt in one foul swoop.
And he doesn't bother with any clean vocals on here, which generally when you start bringing up melody, is like, oh God, they're going to start singing. That doesn't happen on here. But what does happen is, well, this band has found some, I don't know, like space in between Stockholm and Gothenburg, and pretty much just kind of found this time right in the 90s where they just kind of pulled all those influences, because we already know this band loves bands like Dismember, Entombed. That's a given. But on here, we start hearing more stuff that is akin to like early In Flames, Hypocrisy, and then some other ones that kind of came along that were a bit of a surprise, which we'll go into. But the opening track on here, Dead Star, has, I mean, honestly, like melodies that would not be out of place on Just a Race. Like, they're folky, they're harmonized, they're very tuneful, but they complement a very heavy, just nasty sounding riff that, while it is more melodic, it's still absolutely beefy and comes in chugging, grooving. Chase comes in, growls his guts out. You get this really interesting contrast, and get used to that.
And it gets right to it, too. There is not a moment on this record where it's full of dead space, or you're like, come on, get on with it. Yeah, no, like, intro, no sample, no nothing. Just bam, riff right off the bat.
Yeah, and that's like every track. Like, this just runs like a fine oiled machine. But yeah, the melodeath elements in here are absolutely huge. Dead Star, right away, like, just gives you that vibe and lets you know that this album is going to be different right out of the gate. But when you get down to songs like Superstitious Visions, You get those, again, like sort of folky harmonies that come in. And then a chilling aura, which, granted, it's blasty, it's more aggressive, but you listen to these tremolo harmonies, and honestly, it sounds like hypocrisy.
And it's a little bit blackened, too. Like, they like the dynamic blending here is really neat. Again, going from melodeath to straightforward death metal to doom to, like, blackened flourishes. It's all over this record.
Sometimes they do a good job of, like, really balancing that sort of thing out in one song. Like, the song Oblivion is like half a Dismember song and half an In Flames song. Opens up with like melodic tremolos, they're harmonized. Again, they kind of have that slightly folky touch, but then it just hits this D-beat stride and you just get that sort of classic Dismember Entomb sound. It's an absolute beatdown of a song, but with melodic hooks. And riff-wise on this album across the board, this might be like their catchiest album. Like, there's legit a good hook on every song on here.
And sometimes it starts right off with it too. Oblivion starts immediately with a hook. Superstitious Visions starts immediately with a hook. Plus it's got that neat cowbell bridge in it.
Yeah, the cowbell, I was not expecting that. Like, they kind of just isolate a riff and then the cowbell goes. And then it doesn't kind of like camp it up too much. It's just for a moment and it gets into the lead section, but I thought that was a really fun transition. In a lot of ways, this album was my unexpected reality in terms of the elements that they brought in here. The two big ones that really stood out in terms of just being kind of far removed from anything they've done before, The Black Curtain and Flesh Habit. Granted, Flesh Habit sounds like an alternate PG title for Addicted to Vaginal Skin. There is, I guess what you could call a goth rock vibe to these songs. When The Black Curtain was released as a single, when I heard that opening strumming, that more melancholic vibe, it's weird that the first thing that I thought of was Catatonia's Brave Murder Day. And it fits. Like, it has those very weepy, rainy day riffs, but on top of that, harsh, heavy vocals, because Michael Lagerfeld was on that album and actually crushed it. But that song and Flesh Habit have that vibe. It's like goth rock done by an HM2 band. Like, so it's just got like a little bit, well, actually a lot more heft to it. And there's a lot of stuff on those songs that also reminds me of like Paradise Lost, circa Draconian Times. Another band that is seriously heavy but knows how to embrace like melodies and make it still dark and haunting, because despite how much melody they added on here, which honestly is a lot.
Yeah, there's a ton.
It doesn't come across as like campy or cheesy. It feels very serious and it's balanced out well with really heavy tracks.
Yep. And there's a great flow to everything. There wasn't a single time where I thought, like, well, that doesn't fit, or like, I wouldn't have put that there. There's a very liquidic flow to everything. Like, it just moves the way it's supposed to, and like, from, moments filled with melody or harmony, it's equally balanced out by something heavy.
Honestly, it seems like it's set up to be like melodic track, heavier track, melodic track, heavier track through a good chunk of this. Like The Black Curtain, fiercely melodic track. I mean, it's heavy in terms of like the more emotional sort of like dark gothic vibe it has. But the next track is Masterpiece of Chaos, which is sinister, heavy. It's got slow, churning, ugly riffs in it. Like, this is one of those songs where it's built for an HM2 tone.
Yes, it is. That's probably actually one of my favorite tracks. Got some really awesome drum work in there, too.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, for the most part, it's just sinister and evil, and those riffs absolutely snarl. Not that they don't throughout the rest of the record, but like, it's just darker and evil, and you're just like, yeah.
Same thing with Flesh Habit. Flesh Habit is followed by Mistaken for Dead, which is thrashy, snarly, it's got D beats, it's just kind of mean-spirited. There's a little flex of melody, but melody is not the main part on there. Melody is just sort of a little side piece. It's the garnish. It's the parsley on the plate. This is about the big old slab of meat. And yeah, that song is a big old slab of kind of thrashy meat. Like the lead on there, loaded with dive bombs, it's squealy, it's shreddy.
Squawky.
But at the same time, across the board, the leads really match up well with the songs. Like, there's a lot of really solid melodic lead work on here, too.
And speaking of melody, but done differently, the last track, Tears Fall from the Sky, is done doomily. It's still folky, and it's still got all those crazy melodies and harmonies in it, but it's like Gatecreeper firing on all cylinders to go dark and doomy and slow, and just kind of reminding you where they've come from.
They could have changed their name to My Creeping Bride on that song. It sounds like a My Dying Bride song.
Dying Gatecreeper.
Yeah, it's heavy, slow. Again, it's that melodic style of Death Doom, but it's just, again, like very emotionally dark sounding, and few bands do that as well as My Dying Bride and Paradise Lost. But they really capture that on here. And, they're no stranger to Death Doom. They've had moments on other albums where they've kind of just slowed it down and let single chords ring out. But this one, they really inject a lot of cool melody. In fact, the lead work on top of all these riffs is just incredible in that song, especially how they fade out on that cool crawling melody.
Well, yeah, it's a cool crawling harmony that they fade out, and they jam on it for probably a good minute and 30 seconds. It's a good beast of a song. And now the record, of course, once again produced by Kurt Ballou, and then the band. I mean, the two of those brains as a whole working together really bring out magic in this record. Snarling HM2 crunchy guitars just like you'd expect. And the bass is kind of warm, yet it snarls on its own accord. It's got this nice kind of flair and flourish to it. The drums sound actually pretty natural, especially for a Kurt Ballou mix. Like, they're not the gigantic drums you're going to find on some of his other mixes. They just sit really nice in the mix. And then Chase's vocals are a little bit more out front than they've been in the past, which is great because he does a really great job.
Yeah. I like the fact that he did not go for any clean vocals in here. That kind of leaves the music room to be more melodic.
Yes, thank you.
That saves, all the melody for all the cool harmonies and riffs and just everything on here. Let him be as brutal as possible, which he does. And again, he has like such a commanding, powerful delivery. And he drives a lot of these songs. Now, sometimes they don't work as well as others. Like, I like this entire album, but there are songs that I thought were, maybe just a little too, straightforward and kind of plain. Like, Caught in the Treads.
Yeah.
Caught in the Treads was one of the singles, and honestly, it's like a hybrid between a monomarth and Bolt Thrower. It's that sort of anthemic, mid-tempo sort of stomper. It's a little bit more on the melodic side, so there's the monomarth, but it also has that sort of driving power of a Bolt Thrower song. So it's like drunk Vikings driving a tank or something that's terribly, terribly unsafe.
Superstitious Visions, I thought, was also kind of a little bit along the same line. Well, there are some cool parts in that song, and I mean, come on, there's a cowbell. It's also pretty straightforward. Like, there's not a whole lot going on there as far as like groove is concerned. I think it's just more focused on things like melody and harmony, and I don't know, a lot of the folky melodies, while I like them, they caught me a little off guard too. I was like, what? To me, it sounded like it was still missing a little bit of like Gatecreeper heft.
And I mean, honestly, going over this one, listening to it, I could see where this one would be divisive. Like, is this the point where Gatecreeper may have gotten too melodic for some of their fans? I mean, possibly. Honestly, I don't hear a lot of the hardcore influence. Like, granted, the D beats are in there, but they could also be more attributed to the Swedish death metal style, Dismember and Entombed. I mean, there's a lot of crust punk influence in that itself. But in terms of like those hardcore beatdown moments, those are a little bit more few and far between on here, and instead you have a lot of like really interesting melodies. And granted, you have a lot of variety with the melody. Like, they kind of explored like most of Peaceville's roster in the 90s, which is totally fine. That's a fucking awesome roster. But I could see where this is maybe just enough of a departure to kind of make, fans a little bit like, it's maybe a little too melodic for me. But for me, honestly, I kind of like the fact that this is a constantly evolving project. Like, they clearly don't want to do the same thing on every album, and it really shows. And honestly, I think this is some of their best songwriting. Like, just across the board in terms of like the song structure, the dynamics, this stands out in a pack of a lot of HM2 driven death metal bands. Believe me, I know. I listened to like all of them. And the melodies don't feel forced. They feel natural. They complement the songs well. And there is still a good balance when it comes down to flat out heft and very tuneful, catchy melodies. So overall, I'm going to give this 4 stars. I really enjoyed this for the most part. I think this album flows wonderfully. It's got a tight runtime. And again, they expanded their sound quite substantially with, I don't know, like elements I really wasn't expecting. Like, I didn't think I was going to be bringing up Paradise Lost or Catatonia on here, but they're accurate. They fit. And they're executed really well. And, if you're still looking for the absolutely bone-crunching, heavy Gatecreeper, it is still here. It's just with a lot more melody here. Like, a chilling aura, Masterpiece of Chaos, Mistaken for Dead. Those are heavy, heavy songs. But there's also a lot of melody on here. And again, I could see this being slightly divisive with some fans, but I don't know. I dig it. I like a lot of like early 90s melodeath, and I love Stockholm death metal and HM2 stuff. Most people probably know that by now. But this harks a really cool balance between the two. And props to them for like continuously pushing this band's sound forward and exploring different dynamics. Like even down to like some more straightforward stuff, like just 4/4 time rhythms and a good catchy chorus hook. That's awesome. And they're not doing it with clean vocals, so, you know, you don't have to worry about that. This is a banger. I really dig it. And again, I could see people not liking this one, or I can see people like completely embracing it as one of their best works. I don't know. There might be some middle ground in there. Who knows? We'll see when this review comes out. But yeah, I dig it. Check this out.
For me, I'm going to be one of those divisive people. It's a 3.5 for me. I still really dug it. The melodies and the harmonies are all great. I was not expecting to compare this so much to Melodeath, but we're here. And it's not a bad thing. This band does a good job at taking that sound and that era of time, putting their own spin on it, still remaining Gatecreeper, but adding some new things into the fold. For me, I do miss the darker, heavier aspect of Gatecreeper. I don't know what it is, but a lot of these things, even though they were cool, just kind of caught me off guard, and I miss, you know, the more heavy aspect or the more hardcore aspect or just the kind of punch in the face that this band has. Granted, it's still in here, it's just not in here as much, and that's kind of what, you know, took me away a little bit from this whole experience. Still, nonetheless, it has a lot of great melody and a lot of great harmony, and, you know, they've kind of gone outside their box and got inside another box and owned what that was without fully, like, leaving their own box. I feel like that's a lot of box analogies, but whatever. Chase's vocal dynamics on this rule. I think he is greatly improving as a vocalist. Not that he wasn't a great one before, but I mean, like, he's definitely adding a lot more to his range, per se. I'm thankful that there are no clean vocals. Thank you, Gatecreeper, for putting in a bunch of melody and harmony and not abandoning, you know, crazy death metal vocals.
We're all for Melodeath with heavy vocals.
100%. The album flows great. It's a 3.5 now. I'll probably jam this again. Who knows if it'll change, but like, I feel comfortable sitting at 3.5. If you're a fan of course, Gatecreeper, yeah, definitely Paradise Lost and Catatonia. Old In Flames, Dismember, Entombed, all that. Like, everything you love about Gatecreeper is still there, just with some new flourishes. If you're fans of any of that, definitely check this record out. And fucking check it out, because it's Gatecreeper, and it's the first time they've released something in a long time. So, yeah, welcome back, Gatecreeper.
So, if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up, and if you're new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We are also on Patreon. If you'd like to help us out there, there's a link down below to thrallsmetal.com. Our Patreon link is there. It is also on our channel. But if you're looking for Thralls Metal stuff, you have to go to thrallsmetal.com. We have t-shirts, both old and new. The old ones are discounted. And we even have hats, too. So if you're looking for any of that stuff, click the link down below.
Tons of stuff coming from Thralls of Metal, album reviews, of course, because what else would we do? Discography rankings, we're going to knock out Meshuggah when we get back from MDF. By the time you view this video, we'll be like 2 days, 3 days out from MDF. While you won't see anything coming from Thralls of Metal the week that we're gone, as far as album reviews are concerned, you will see a bunch of shorts, because I'm sure we're going to take a bunch of video and pictures and whatnot, because it's MDF and MDF rules. We're super stoked on that. But anyway, we're going to be there. If you run into us, if you see us, come over and say hi. We are pretty approachable people in spite of what you may think. We're looking forward to hanging out, meeting some of you, talking, bullshitting, whatever, maybe grab a drink, who knows. It's going to be a party for 5 days and we're stoked.
Woo!
Yeah, but really, thank you guys for continuing to show your support and love for Thralls of Metal. It means the absolute world to us. This has become such a huge part of our lives, and we're stoked to be able to keep bringing you awesome content. Nick, tell them more.
Yeah, you guys rule, and yeah, 100%. If you see us at MDF, come up, say hi. You know, we're there all for the same reason, to wreck our necks and, you know, possibly buy a lot of merch. I don't know. Oh, of course, see bands. Duh, that too.
Eat a bottle of ibuprofen.
Yeah, and then drink on top of it.
Oh my goodness.
It's going to be amazing. No, but seriously, you guys are absolutely awesome, and we will catch you later.